You're listening to the Journey Podcast, a ministry of Southcrest Baptist Church. We're here to know the Word, love the Word, and live the Word. Let's take a joyous journey through the Word.
Hey Tyler, I had a question about the reading this week. How should we approach Ezra and Nehemiah? Should we read it like a devotional or more like a history?
We're back, David.
Back.
Hey, I feel like I need to say this because I'm feeling it in my face. I literally just got into this seat from another seat, the seat of a dentist.
Yeah.
Yeah, he filled the cavity, and he had to 3 different times. He had to numb me up.
Did he stab you with the needle?
Because it wasn't getting it. So he would numb me.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it so much.
We'd wait a few minutes, and then he would come in, put everything in my mouth, start. And I was like,
how?
And he was like, you feeling that? And I was like,
yeah.
My face says so. Yeah, I don't know if you can tell.
I hate going to the dentist.
So then he would numb me up again, and I was like, man, I'm sorry I'm being complicated. And he was like, man, it's just anatomy. Like, everyone's nerve is like in a different spot, and we just kind of like are trying to find it. And I'm like, okay.
Stabbed you again.
So literally, I mean, like, this whole side of my face feels like up to my eyeball is numb.
Would you say that you can't feel your face when you're with me?
I can't feel my face when
I'm with you.
It, like, I put a mint in, and I couldn't taste anything.
Oh, no.
And so it's like, it's the weirdest feeling. But I just want, like, this is how dedicated I am.
Yeah.
This is how dedicated I am to this podcast. Yeah.
Should we answer that question?
Yeah, I think that was a great question.
Great question.
And really, we're going to kind of just talk about that question today.
Okay, yeah. Let's just go for it.
Yeah, so the question that you heard was, how should we read Ezra and Nehemiah? I think, like, this is a really interesting question to me because Ezra and Nehemiah is typically not a book of the Bible that people, like, spend a lot of time in, right? Like, they aren't doing devotional time in Ezra or Nehemiah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know many people who are like, man, those are my 2 favorite books of the Bible. I don't know, maybe they're yours.
They are.
Oh,
they're my favorite books of the Bible.
Gosh, I knew I was gonna step up there.
Oh my goodness,
I can't believe that. No, we were talking earlier, and you told me like your history with Ezra and Nehemiah is probably pretty
limited.
Yeah,
pretty limited. Yeah, like we read a book a while back called Visioneering, right? Is what it's called? Yeah. And talks a lot about Nehemiah and leadership and vision casting. And I've done a little bit of Bema. I mean, like a little bit of Bema listening about it, but they don't go real deep on any specific part of it. So yeah, I don't have a lot.
Well, and I think like that's typically where people go when it comes to like the book of Ezra and specifically Nehemiah is like, okay, it's a great book on leadership, right?
Yeah. Rebuilding the wall.
And like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? I think you definitely see like, man, some leadership aspects and points in the life of Nehemiah. But what's interesting is these 2 books in our Bible are 2 different books, Ezra, Nehemiah.
Mm-hmm.
In the Hebrew Bible, they're meant to be read as one.
Okay.
And that's because they take place kind of in the same time period. And Ezra and Nehemiah, they really are centered around 3 different leaders, okay? Ezra chapter 1 through 6, you learn about a guy named Zerubbabel. Gosh, that is hard to say with a numb mouth.
Try it again.
Zerubbabel. That is, wow.
Oh, man. Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel?
Yes. Yeah. Zerubbabel or Zerubbabel. I've heard it both ways. Yeah.
This is fun.
But yeah, so he shows up in Ezra 1-6, and what he does is he's kind of God's people they've been kind of taken to Babylon in captivity. I talked about this in TNG last night. God had promised Abraham way back in Genesis, hey, if you follow me, I'm going to bless you, and through you, I'm going to bless the nations, right? And for a long time, God's people, Israel, followed him. But through years and years and years of rebellion, God told them, hey, and he told them through the prophets, like, consequences are going to follow if you don't turn from your rebellion. Ezra and Nehemiah are kind of the after effects of those consequences, because they were taken into captivity by Babylon. Babylon came in, conquered the nation of Israel, and essentially human trafficked them back to Babylon. And they were captive. They were essentially prisoners in Babylon, taken out of their home country. Ezra starts with this guy, this leader, Zerubbabel, and they now have the opportunity to go back to Jerusalem. And he leads them back to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple.
Is this the remnant?
Yes.
Is that what we call this?
Yeah.
They're the remnant, right?
Yeah, this is the remnant, quote unquote, the remnant. Then you get to Ezra chapter 7, verse 10. Ezra 7 through 10, and you meet another guy by the name of Ezra. Okay, which the book of Ezra is named after. What you see is that there are still some Israelites that are stuck in Babylon, and Ezra is the man who leads them back to Jerusalem. Okay, then you fast forward to Nehemiah. So Babylon conquered Jerusalem. Babylon was like the big power until another big power came on the world stage by the name of Persia. Persia conquers Babylon. Nehemiah takes place during Persia. In fact, it's like Nehemiah chapter 1, we're told that Nehemiah was the cupbearer to the Persian king. What is a cupbearer? And I think this is really important. A cupbearer was a really normal job, but it was also a job you didn't want, because it essentially was the person who tested the wine before you gave it to the king.
Make sure it's not poison.
Make sure there was no poison in it.
I was like, uh-oh.
And so you didn't really want that job, but it was a pretty like normal job.
Yeah.
And so we talked about this at TNG, but like one of the cool things about Nehemiah is God uses this normal person. He's not a prophet. He's not a king. He's not a ruler. He's just a normal person to start this revival that restores this nation.
Yeah.
But Nehemiah goes back. It's been 134 years since Jerusalem has been conquered. And he hears this report that the walls have still not been put up. And we talked about it at TNG. He weeps for that. And I don't think he weeps because the walls haven't been put up. He weeps because he hasn't been a part of the solution yet.
Yeah.
And he knows that. And so he starts to weep. And so that's essentially Ezra and Nehemiah. And I think one of the reasons people don't typically spend a lot of time in it is because it is a lot of historical, like, just like you have to have a little bit of understanding of like the history that's taking place. And if you don't, it might be a little confusing. Like, it might be kind of hard.
Something I thought was interesting that they said in Bema, this is kind of like a side note.
Yeah.
That's interesting is I think about, which I don't think either of us are necessarily like recommending or condoning this movie, right? But my mind immediately goes to 300, right? Artaxerxes, and like that's the Persians are attacking the Spartans. Is like that's that.
Yeah.
That story, supposed to be that story. Something they said in Bema was that there's a bit of a back and forth. I never knew this, right? There's a bit of back and forth historically about, like, from that movie, like we get this picture of the Persians, that they're these violent conquerors, like vicious conquerors, which I guess they did conquer the Babylonians. But what Solomon was saying was that they were actually seems a lot different from the Babylonians, where they were more over just making agreements with, and it kind of does look like this, like what you're saying with the cupbearer and all that kind of stuff, with their relationship with Israel, that it was less like we're gonna conquer you and enslave you, and more they were just saying, hey, do you like, it was a little bit more of an amicable like agreement where they were just like, hey, we're
Like, we want you to live in this land.
we're going to live in this land and be successful and be prosperous, and pay us a lot of money along the way, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so it wasn't as oppressive, I guess, at least as oppressive as like the just enslavement of the Babylonians, or with the Babylonians. That's just an interesting side note. And then like before you kind of open up those themes, I think because you were saying, like, kind of relating back to the question of just about how we should look at this. I guess, and you can definitely add or push back on this, what you think here, right? But I guess like it's maybe important for us in all of Scripture, but this is a great example here to just remember that there's different types of literature in Scripture,
Right.
so maybe ones where we shouldn't be, or we should be a little more careful when we take things just literally. I guess there's certain themes, right? Like where there's like poetry and different things like that. And this does seem to be more of just a historical account, but really in all of it, the answer is kind of yes. Like, should we this or that? Should we read it as history, or should we like try to take a devotional out of it? Right? Like, it's kind of yes, like both of them, really. Like we want to pull, like, observe, like pull the history that we're getting from this, but also like I think we've talked before about like Tara Lee Cobble's way that she does this with Bible Recap is like, what's your God shot? So like even in this, we're kind of saying like, hey, what do we learn about God's character and our relationship to Him and all that, like as we like read history. So I don't know.
Yeah, like you definitely are going to read Ezra and Nehemiah differently than you read Psalms.
Yeah, for
or
sure.
Proverbs, right? But once you start noticing some of the major themes that come out of it, like that's when it becomes devotional.
Yeah.
And that's when it becomes like worshipful, like as you're reading it. And so I think that's a great point. It's like, yes to both of them.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be historical, but absolutely, like you can definitely.
We learn from history, right? We learn, and that's kind of what you're doing in devotionals. Like you're walking away with a truth that you maybe need to embrace, or an action that you need to take, and so that's what we do usually when we read history. Hopefully, is we learn from it. Hopefully.
Okay, I want to point out just 3 themes that you'll see kind of show up over and over again in these 2 books, and I think this is where it does become, like I said, devotional for you. The first one that you're going to see is, well, not first one, but one theme that I want to point out is God's sovereignty. You're going to see God, like in these 2 books, pop up over and over again, like directly involved in like the inner workings of everything going on. And the reason I point that out is because we just got through the book of Esther, right? And in the book of Esther, like, you kind of see God working in the background, but you don't ever really see in the book of Esther him like any mention of God. In Ezra and Nehemiah, he's mentioned over and over and over again, kind of moving the hands of people and working. And so you'll see like God's sovereignty over and over again in these 2 books. This book is also about worship, okay? These 2 books, because what's the whole point that they're going back to Jerusalem? They're going back to Jerusalem to build the temple. Why? Because they want to worship God. And so this book is all about like right worship, what that looks like, especially for the people of Israel. And the temple building is a huge deal that takes place in these 2 books. And then along with that, another big theme is the theme of justice, because God is not only concerned with worship, but He's concerned with what that worship leads to, which is the treatment of other people. And so you're going to see that theme kind of pop up over and over again in these 2 books. I think a great passage just to focus on is Nehemiah chapter 1, and I want to read Nehemiah's prayer. But any last thoughts as we kind of, I don't know, wrap this up? this is one of those that it's not really like odd or weird passages. It's just one of those like books that we just probably don't know a whole lot about.
Yeah.
You know? And so any last thoughts as we kind of do that?
Man, yeah, I think maybe my only would just be to encourage people to think of themselves, like to identify in themselves where they have opportunity to be leaders in the faith, right? Because I think a lot of people, I have done this plenty of times, right? Kind of maybe discount the like the position that they're in, right, and the influence that they have. And so just kind of encourage people. Like I think maybe Nehemiah, like cupbearer, probably was not maybe the most likely candidate to lead in this way, right? And so I'll just throw that out there. That
I think it's a great.
Don't underestimate yourself and God's calling on your life.
I think it's a great point.
Let's read it.
You want to read it since you don't have a numb mouth?
Sure, yeah. I was really excited about listening to you read it, though. So how far am I reading?
Let's just start with verse 5.
Okay.
Nehemiah, it says that he's fasting and praying before the God. He hears about the walls of Jerusalem and how they've been torn down. And verse 5 says that verse 4 says that he's fasting and praying, and then verse 5 is his prayer. And really what's interesting about Nehemiah, real quick, is that Nehemiah is essentially 12 chapters of 12 different prayers. And so it's like a prayer journal, like when you read it. And so it's really cool to kind of enter into someone's prayer and what they say.
5-11, okay. I said, Lord, the God of the heavens, the great and awe-inspiring God who keeps his gracious covenant with those who love him and keep his commands. Let your eyes be open and your ears be attentive to hear your servant's prayer that I now pray to you day and night for your servants, the Israelites. I confess the sins we have committed against you. Both I and my father's family have sinned. We have acted corruptly toward you and have not kept the commandments, statutes, and ordinances you gave your servant Moses. Please remember that you commanded your servant Moses, if you are unfaithful, I will scatter you among the peoples. But if you return to me and carefully observe my commandments, even though your exiles were banished to the farthest horizon, I will gather them from there and bring them to the place where I chose to have my name dwell. They are your servants and your people. You redeemed them by your great power and strong hand. Please, Lord, let your ear be attentive to the prayer of your servant and to that of your servants who delight to revere your name. Give your servant success today and grant him compassion in the presence of this man. At that time, I was the king's cupbearer.
Hey, my encouragement this week is let Nehemiah's prayer form your prayers.
Yeah.
There's a lot in here that can be a guide for you as you are praying and spending time with the Lord. Hey, so to go back and answer Caleb's question, how should we read Ezra and Nehemiah? Historically, devotionally, yes to both of those. Spend time, allow the themes to jump out of the pages to you. And as you do that, I think you'll find yourself, man, just worshiping God for who he is and how he's worked through the ages. So David, you want to close this out?
Yeah. So as we leave today, ask good questions, live in the uncomfortable so that we learn to trust the Bible and know God more deeply. You are sent.